Carolyn,
Yes, hello.
thanks ever so much for coming.
Pleasure.
Carolyn Cadman from South West Water. We'll talk about that quite a lot. It's bank holiday and it's good of you to leave the family and come and talk to us. Can you tell me a bit like personal history?
Yeah, so I was born over in Suffolk, almost as far east from here as you can get in the country. And gradually we've moved from Suffolk to the West Midlands and then to Bristol. Spent 15 years in Bristol where I had the two boys. And then we moved down to Cornwall almost 10 years ago.
What part of Suffolk?
Woodbridge area.
Near Ipswich.
It is near Ipswich, yeah.
So you tried to go there?
Yes. By association more than I don't watch every single game or everything, but my boys and my husband are very much track boys.
It just follows him. My son's a Nottingham Forest fan because he follows it.
Yeah.
They always say you can change your wife, but you can't change your football team. Great. And you're now with South West Water. Before that,
So I've been in national roles with Natural England and the Marine Management Organisation. And when we moved down to Cornwall, I had a couple of years working at Cornwall Council. And then amazing opportunity came up to be Chief Exec of Cornwall Wildlife Trust, which I did for 4.5 years. And then one of the programs that Cornwall Wildlife Trust used to deliver for South West Water was called Upstream Thinking, where South West Water would pay for farm advisors employed by Cornwall Wildlife Trust to give farmers and landowners advice where they farmed around reservoirs and places where we abstract water.
Right.
So took the chief exec of South West Water out on a site visit to see some of the work that the team had been doing. Just it would be lovely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Pete. Took the chief exec out on a site visit, and that turned into a job interview. And she called me up and said, "How can we get you to come and work for South West Water?" Headhunted, which is now what I do. So I still oversee the Upstream Thinking Programme, which is changing a bit in the next 5-year business plan. But in addition to Upstream Thinking, we also lead the South West Peatland Partnership. So we're restoring peatlands and we are controlling the spread of invasive non-native species across the water infrastructure in the region. Things like zebra mussels and species that predate and eat our own native species. Quite a lot of those species get into the water infrastructure and they have to be controlled. So we do that. And we also help some of our protected species like salmon and trout. We remove barriers from our own infrastructure to help them get back to where they want to breed and feed as well. So to give them
I was quite surprised because we're working at the moment with Portowan.
Yeah.
They've got a stream there. And that's a salmon rod.
Yeah.
And we're digging out the bottom of it, but we've got to wait to the top of it outside the breeding. The roosters and people have seen trout in it, so they do go upstream, which is
they do, but the salmon, especially in the southwest, has seen quite a dive in numbers over the last 40-50 years, and that's going to be from a range of sources. Climate change is changing the temperature of the water, and temperature is really important for breeding and successful breeding. But it's also things like, yes, sewage will play a part in it, but agricultural runoff as well, and just chemicals more generally getting through into water courses.
There must be more and more because my daughter lives in London, in Chiswick near the Thames.
Yeah.
I used to fish the Thames. I was a good boy. My grandfather lived in there. And there's nothing in it now. You don't see any fishermen there. And it's just, I think something must have gone on.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of things. And there's not that many big industrial factories like there used to be on rivers where you could say absolutely that or this is causing an issue in a water course. And they call it point source pollution. Everything is much more diffuse now, so it's harder to track. It's not impossible, but it's harder to track back through a system to find out what is actually impacting. And I think it's just a combination of factors.
It's something we need to sort now. Yeah. When the boat.
Would you like some of this?
Yes, please. Thank you. When the boat crews can't throw the cocks in.
Yeah.
It's to our shame, I think. I mean, I just think we're better than that. But so the reason's obviously important. You mentioned peat, and I've got a question here from Abby Crosby. You very hot.
Yep.
Peat or seagrass?
Oh, Abby. She's naughty, isn't she? Yeah, she is naughty.
Oh, the more naughty ones.
Okay, right. And both. So if you're on an upland, you absolutely want healthy peatlands to be storing water and creating that habitat that's so vital, um, vital for uh, dragonflies, damselflies, which is vital as part of the food chain. But equally, seagrass, where there were seagrass beds that have been damaged, you want those healthy seagrass beds back as well, for both for habitat reasons, but also for carbon reasons as well, because both peat and seagrass will be sequestering carbon, and that's what we need to help try and bring the temperature of the planet down.
Is seagrass the same as eelgrass?
Uh, there's two main types of seagrass that you get in this country. I think. Oh, Abby will know the answer.
Yeah, I know.
I'm not sure that I think eelgrass might be different, but let's hold that
Yeah,
question.
certainly, I'm on IFCA, or I was for the last thing. There's a big thing about anchors and where we're putting them,
Yes. Yeah.
because they're clean, whether it's the eelgrass or seagrass, and the what do they call those fish that look like dragons? Seahorse.
Seahorses. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it clears that, and they've got nothing to hang on to.
Yeah, it's their
And
habitat.
they've got these things like a pontoon now.
Yeah.
You clip onto that, and it's great.
Yeah.
I talked to some colleagues in Europe about it. And they were very excited because they weren't doing that, and they got seahorses and they wanted to sort of
Yeah, I think
learn about it.
and again, Abby will know more than I do, but the Wildlife Trust that Abby used to be part of, they're volunteer researchers that go out and do a lot of the survey work of seagrass beds, but also other marine habitats. They are finding more evidence of novel species that they didn't think were present before, which is great.
It's wonderful. I mean, when I was growing up, there was none of this.
Yeah.
Save the whale and that sort
Yeah.
of stuff. I think people are much, much more into wildlife now than they used to be. Why have you found yourself as water?
So I've definitely felt a change in the sense that I went from an organisation that everyone loves, called the Wildlife Trust, to an organisation that everyone loves to hate. Well, not everyone, but many people love to hate Southwest Water. And that is quite a different working environment and has a lot of multiple impacts on both the culture of the organisation, the way the organisation responds in times of pressure. There's always something going on for the organisation, and there's a lot of criticism and there's very low levels of trust in the organisation, and that's been quite an eye opener.
Yeah.
But I still believe fundamentally that there's an important job that needs to be done, and water is vital for humans. We're about to drink some now, but it's also vital for wildlife. So it's really important that we don't forget that what we take from the environment and what we put back in the environment is not just about what we need as humans. It's also about the nature and the habitats that also need that water too.
I know there's lots of criticism of something. I think it comes down to shareholders, and because I don't think we talked to local people. It was ever thus. They told me, the amount of sewage. It was worse years ago. But I think that thing about if it was nationalised, that money could be going back to us. How we met must be over a year ago now.
Yeah.
And could you talk me through that? I asked you about if you could do a survey of the house, because we know the problems one of the problems in Angus is the top water, the foul water, both go into the same drain.
Yeah.
So when it rains, it all goes down to the quay, and you have to open your pumping station and let it all go. And it just seemed to me at the time, and I think we discussed it was an engineering thing, really, just to say, how do we stop that going down there?
Yeah.
And you very kindly went off and got some money to work that up.
Yes, and I've got some of the studies that we did. And your viewers won't be able to see this necessarily, but this is St Agnes, and that's Trevornance Cove down there. And what we did was we mapped the sewage system, and we mapped land use, we mapped where people live, and what the landscape types are. There's a number of other maps that we've got as well.
I'll put these.
We'll
put those up later.
Yeah. And we came and had some workshops that you came and took part in, and a lot of colleagues from like the Cornwall Catchment Partnership and other organisations who also have an interest in water quality came along, as did some local residents too. And we looked at the particular challenges here in St Agnes, and we looked at the performance of the wastewater system. and it with colleagues who run the wastewater system from South West Water, and it became clear reasonably quickly that actually, generally, the wastewater system in St Agnes is performing quite well. When it's got a steady flow of wastewater coming through, what it doesn't handle particularly well, and many systems can't handle particularly well, is when you get intense rainfall, because which we've had. And as you've described, St Agnes has got, I'm looking out the window now, we've got lots of roofs, lots of pavements, and very steep-sided valleys, and water moves really, really quickly into that combined sewer that you described. So what we've been talking about since those maps were produced in the workshops is, well, what can we do about it? And South West Water has, in partnership with Ofwat and other water companies, we've got a water efficiency fund that's coming. And there's another fund that South West Water is releasing soon, Building Better Futures, I think it's called. And I want to work again with the parish council to see how can we try and reduce the speed with which water goes straight into that sewage system. So we talked about community water butts, networked water butts, and different ways in which we can capture some of that rainwater, stop it going in the sewage system, but either gradually let it go, or have it there available for the community to use to water their gardens or to clean cars, or whatever needs to be done. There might even be a business that wants that water as well. So that's the next stage, really. We know what the problems are now. We just need to get the resources in place and the community engagement right in order to do something about it.
And I know you've been working with farmers as well. So pressing goal
Yeah.
with the Williams and people like that. And I never realised how important that was either. That how much I know we used to have a brown river used to come down through Barker's shop every time it rained, and it was basically that the farmer who lived at Midian, was on council, and thank goodness, so we could do something about it. Just turned his ploughing around, and his ploughing was going like that, so the water didn't stay in the village; just went straight down the hill with all his soil and that. And
I mean, that farm is just amazing, and I think everyone in St Agnes should be grateful to the Williams farm. We've had a site visit with him, and I want to go again soon. We've been in touch about that, but the work that he and the family are doing up there is really helping to slow the flow of water down through the catchment. He's doing amazing things, and I'm sure he'd be willing. Well, can't speak.
I will do a apology.
Yeah,
I've spoken to him and Anne as well.
No,
you probably know from the council days.
Yes, yeah, and they're growing trees for us for Cornwall and doing all sorts of things up there, which is brilliant. And again, if we can help them more, then we'd like to in the future as well. Yeah,
I've got some questions that people have put on Facebook. I know this isn't exactly your remit, because your remit is more about the wildlife and that, but you very kindly said you'd ever go answering that.
Yeah.
This is from Lauren Firefly. Firefly, I presume, is a Facebook name.
Okay.
It's a real name. But Lauren, anyway. Given the scale of last year's profits, why hasn't South West Water prioritised upgrading infrastructure to prevent sewage overflows into our river and seas?
Yeah, okay, that's a fair question, because I know from press over the last couple of weeks that people still, in many cases, aren't quite seeing the investment that South West Water is making. But it is in the next 5 years. It's a huge investment that's going into the Southwest. £3.2 billion is the size of the business plan, which are numbers I almost can't relate to because they're so big. But from a sewage perspective and storm overflow perspective, that 3.2 translates into about £800 million worth of investment in storm overflows. And what the company has done is it's worked out, as all companies have, it's worked out which are the top spillers. We know that because we've got the monitoring in place now, and which of those spilling storm overflows spill into either bathing waters or shellfish waters, or create other community issues. So the ones that spill the most or have the most impact, those ones are the ones that are being prioritised in the next 5 years. And then the rest will follow afterwards. I think it's fair to say that what the public need to see in order to build trust in the water company is more evidence of spill reduction. And if you look on the South West Water website over the last couple of weeks, you'll see examples of in Cornwall, there's Rilla Mill, and I know other examples in Devon have been talked about where the local staff are talking through the improvements and the interventions that have been made in order to reduce those spills. And I hope that we'll start to see more of those case studies being promoted and understood by the local communities. And we're always happy as well. I mean, always happy to take people to see wastewater treatment works and storm overflows, and because it's seeing is believing in many cases. What and smelling is believing as well. Is as to what actually happens and how it works and how complicated some of it is.
The meeting you had in the MMI, and I know you got one there. You plan to do another one, was very well attended, and I think a lot of people came in. Oh, crikey! A lot going on here, isn't there?
Yeah.
And they were very impressed. And I know the farming lobby sent people and things like that. So look forward to the next one. And can we have it rolling into the evening? A lot of people, because they get at work and that sort of thing. Right, for Mike Bunt, who I don't really know, but I know him quite well. Could you ask why surfers aren't considered to be bathers?
That's a really interesting question. Probably so. The Environment Agency, they are responsible for the monitoring of the official bathing waters, and they've recently done a consultation which asked that similar question to that. So the official designated bathing waters is all about people who swim in the sea between May and October. And the consultation that the Environment Agency just did was to establish, well, is it just about people who swim in the sea? Should we be worried about a wider range of users? And also, why just May to October? We know, particularly since COVID, but before that anyway, we know that people use the sea from October through to May as well.
Yeah.
So that consultation was all about the bathing water monitoring regime and what do we define a bather as? And I can only imagine that the bathing water season is going to be extended. I don't know that. It's not I'm not in the Environment Agency, but I would imagine that the response in the consultation asked for the bathing water season to be extended and asked for the definition of a bather to be expanded as well, because we've got surfers, paddleboarders, canoeists, kayakers,
And you have to get in there, no?
Exactly. Yeah.
Which was something that when we've had bad overflows is, people. I know we've got the parish council. I think are getting these kits now, where they can tell within an hour now if people should.
Yeah.
And we talked to RNI about probably putting red flags out, just advising people. But which is very, very useful. But some people have to go in, and it's and I think the other thing is holidaymakers coming down. They don't want to spend a fortnight at Cllr
No.
with some kid that's poorly. It's if there is a bad. I've got other questions. One that links on from that, but because we've only got so much time. One from Martin Digby. I'll write to you about if that's okay, and then I'll put it on Facebook.
Yeah.
There's a couple more, but there's one here from Vince Falco. Does Caroline from South West Water agree that we should not keep building and creating more pressure until South West Water can cope and upgrade with the present loads? Clearly, if overflows are increasing, logic tells us we should be very careful where we increase the volume of sewage and runoff.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really interesting question, particularly in the face of the government's growth agenda that is all over the news at the moment as well. I mean, so South West Water, before the coalition government came in 2010, I think it was, South West Water used to be a statutory consultee in the planning process. That statutory consultee status changed in 2010, and a new duty to connect new housing development came into place. So South West Water still does assessments of new housing developments and looks at the capacity of the local sewage treatment works and will plan improvements in either capacity or flow into our future plans as well. But it is really important to make sure that those growth targets are in tune with South West Water's planning cycle.
And you are only a consultee. You can't say no, can you?
We can't say no. And even if we did, because we don't have statutory status, they don't have to listen to us. So yes, it is really important that the growth agenda and the ability of utility companies like the water company, but also other utilities as well, that their planning processes can be more in tune with each other. And obviously, as a Cornwall council, you've got the local plan. We plan in 5-year cycles, which sometimes these cycles get out of tune with each other, and then you have a bit of a mismatch. But we do have a developer services team. They work very closely with local authorities and developers as well to try and plan in sufficient capacity. But it's a challenge.
It's Paramoon was just here and we wanted to meet you. And I thought what he said was very good, and what he's looking at for Cornwall for his new housing is building houses for people that are already here.
Yeah.
And we've got 800 families now in B&Bs, which is just horrible. Rather than getting more people down from country, if we build houses for people that are already here, they're using the infrastructure. They're using toilets and they're using hubs and doctors and dentists. So they don't put any more pressure. In fact, they put less on probably, because if we get people off sofas and to their own homes, the mental health issues will just lessen, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So I thought that was very good, and I know he wants to work very closely with us at Cornwall Council to make sure that happens. We don't need 4 or 5 bedroom homes down here worth £1 million. We want homes for people who can afford them, and so that's
Yeah, and actually, just whilst you were talking, you made me think about what's also fairly distinctive about Devon and Cornwall compared to other parts of the country, but not unique, is the level of tourists that come to the region, which is great for the economy, but we South West Water has to provide the wastewater and the drinking water for those extra 10 million visitors a year, and that also is an added dimension that Newquay Wastewater Treatment Works, for example, has to be able to cope with the extra, I don't know, 200,000-300,000 people that come for whatever that festival's called, Boardmasters. So there's those dynamics that the company also has to be able to respond to as well.
That's great, Carolyn. And I'll say there's 2 or 3 more questions on Facebook, and if it's okay with you, I'll send you an email, and then I can respond to people. Paramoon was just talking about, I tripped him up, like he mentioned to you about his superstition. I like to have something just at the end.
Yeah.
And the reason I popped out to see him was I said, "You go off lightly, wait till you hear Karen." I told him what it was, and he said, "Be careful." I've got to be careful how I phrase this.
Okay.
But I spoke to Cheryl Marriott.
Oh yes, lovely Cheryl.
Yeah, lovely Cheryl. She's great, isn't she? Honestly, she's and she said, "No, I've got to get this exactly right, otherwise I'm going to be in trouble." There's a stuffed beaver.
Yes, there is.
At
Cornwall
Wildlife Trust, named after you.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. So when I joined Cornwall Wildlife Trust, it was really exciting because we were part of the Cornwall Beaver Project, which is Chris Jones' Valley Farm in Laddock, where he's got an enclosure with beavers, and you can take the Wildlife Trust are working with Chris to take people on guided walks around the Cornwall Beaver Project. And one of the things that Cornwall Wildlife Trust invested in was a sadly dead but taxidermied beaver that was named Trevor, who was my predecessor. And Trevor would apparently sit on a table where guests gathered before they went on a beaver walk. And Trevor, over the years, was left outside. His brown fur got bleached by the sun, and he was looking a bit, I wouldn't say dishevelled, but not in his prime, not in his prime like he was when he died, sadly. So when Cheryl knew that I was leaving, she knew that I'd been saying for some time, or maybe we should think about replacing Trevor. But anyway, on my last day, they unveiled Cadman the beaver, not Carolyn, thankfully. Cadman the beaver, which is still at Cornwall Wildlife Trust and teaching people about beavers and what they're like and how they live and how their anatomy and their being helps them survive in the wild.
And I suppose it links in South West Water, doesn't it? And the water people.
Yeah,
they manage water better than anybody.
They do. I mean, they're known as water eco engineers. They create ponds and for safety reasons for them, and the ponds that they create help with natural flood management and help to treat the water as well, because they slow the flow, which allows sunlight to treat the water as well. So
it's fabulous. I mean, I talking about it, all I can get is Naked Gun. With all that nice me. I've just done this stuff. I mean, it's just came ready. It was wonderful. Thank you, Carolyn. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for asking.
And anything you want to ask me as a councillor?
What do you want to say to South West Water?
Keep working with me.
Yeah.
Keep working with me. and Perrin, and that's I'm sure if we keep the dialogue going, we can make it better.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Good.
And certainly if I get re-elected, I should be wanting to do that a lot. And Perrin's very much hands-on sort of MP as well, and you'll come down and sort of help. We'll meet you again, hopefully.
Yeah, good. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carolyn. Thanks
All
very
right.
much for coming.
Cheers.
Appreciate it. Thank you.